Deuteronomy chapter 11. Therefore thou shalt love the Lord thy God, and keep his charge, and his statutes, and his judgments, and his commandments alway. And know ye this day, for I speak not with your children which have not known, and which have not seen the chastisement of the Lord your God, his greatness, his mighty hand, and his stretched out arm, and his miracles, and his acts which he did in the midst of Egypt, unto Pharaoh the king of Egypt, and unto all his land, and what he did unto the army of Egypt, unto their horses, and to their chariots, how he made the water of the Red Sea to overflow them as they pursued after you, and how the Lord hath destroyed them unto this day. And what he did unto you in the wilderness, until ye came into this place. And what he did unto Dothan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, the son of Reuben. How the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their households, and their tents, and all the substance that was in their possession in the midst of all Israel. But your eyes have seen all the great acts of the Lord which he did. Therefore shall ye keep all the commandments which I command you this day, that ye may be strong, and go in and possess the land whither ye go to possess it, and that ye may prolong your days in the land, which the Lord sware unto your fathers to give unto them and to their seed, a land that floweth with milk and honey. For the land whither thou goest in to possess it is not as the land of Egypt, from whence ye came out, where thou sowest thy seed and waterest it with thy foot, as a garden of herbs. But the land whither ye go to possess it is a land of hills and valleys, and drinketh water of the rain of heaven, a land which the Lord thy God careth for. The eyes of the Lord thy God are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even until the end of the year. And it shall come to pass, if ye shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you the rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thy oil. And I will send grass in thy fields for thy cattle, that thou mayest eat and be full. Take heed to yourselves, that your heart be not deceived, and ye turn aside and serve other gods and worship them. And then the Lord's wrath be kindled against you, and he shut up the heaven, that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, and lest ye perish quickly from off the good land which the Lord giveth you. Therefore shall ye lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. And ye shall teach them your children, speaking of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thine house, and upon thy gates, that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children, in the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers to give them, as the days of heaven upon the earth. For if ye shall diligently keep all these commandments which I command you, to do them, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, and to cleave unto him, then will the Lord drive out all these nations from before you, and ye shall possess greater nations and mightier than yourselves. Every place whereon the soles of your feet shall tread shall be yours, from the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, even unto the uttermost sea shall your coast be. There shall no man be able to stand before you, for the Lord your God shall lay the fear of you and the dread of you upon all the land that ye shall tread upon, as he hath said unto you. Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. A blessing if ye obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day, and a curse if ye will not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside out of the way which I command you this day, to go after other gods which ye have not known. And it shall come to pass, when the Lord thy God hath brought thee in unto the land whither thou goest to possess it, that thou shalt put the blessing upon Mount Gerizim, and a curse upon Mount Ebal. Are they not on the other side Jordan, by the way where the sun goeth down, in the land of the Canaanites, which dwell in the champaign over against Gilgal, where the plains of beside the plains of Moreh? For ye shall pass over Jordan to go in to possess the land which the Lord your God giveth you, and ye shall possess it and dwell therein. And ye shall observe to do all the statutes and judgments which I set before you this day. There are three parts that we should comment on this chapter, and the first one deals with the first rains and the latter rains. And since the vast majority of people who will be reading along with this are probably not farmers, you don't understand the significance of the rains. Heavenly Father makes a difference here between Egypt and the land these people are going to go to. In Egypt, which was watered by the river and flooded, and they had pumps that they would water with your foot. They had foot-powered type pumps. They had water wheels, and there were jars on water wheels, and you would step on some part of the wheel and it would turn and it would lift up a jar of water that would take it into an irrigation canal. But he was letting them know that this place was watered by God, that there were rains that came. And the first rain came usually about November, which is when they planted the grain crop. And that rain was necessary in its season because it watered the ground, softened the ground, and gave the grain seeds enough water to sprout and to start to grow for a couple of months. And the latter rains, which came in April, were just as essential for a different reason. They were the ones that would give enough water for the plant to continue to live until harvest, but they also provided enough water so there was one of the basic resources, which was water, from which starch is made, which would give the plump grains so that when the harvest was there would actually be some grain to harvest. And that was the rain. Now, the other important part of this was to let them know that whether or not the rains came at all and came in the season thereof, because if the rains were too late or too early, they wouldn't get a harvest, just that simple. That the rains, the coming of the rains, was directly related to the personal righteousness of the people. And if the people were not righteous, the rains would not come in season. Heavens would be shut up, the rains would not come in time, and you would have no grain. I think that applies to us. I know a lot of people, there's global warming and all the rest of it, and I agree with that. But Heavenly Father is also giving the message here that regardless of what providence or the weather patterns generally might do, He can alter them for our benefit. And if we want to have the benefit, then we need to understand that our personal righteousness, how we live, the commandments we choose to obey and disobey are going to have an impact on it. And the more unrighteous we are, the more unrighteous people there are, the more unrighteous we are as individuals, the less we're going to benefit from Heavenly Father's interference in the weather for our benefit. The second part is verses 18 to 32, if I remember correctly. And he's telling the people there that the children, which would be the teenagers and the younger ones, do not remember everything that happened. They were not the ones that came out of Egypt. They've been wandering in the wilderness now for 40 years. So all the children who were not around at that point in time, who wouldn't be children anymore, did not know what happened in Egypt and did not see all the things that God had done for these people as they traveled in the wilderness. And it was necessary that the ones who were alive, and you notice that I find it interesting, mainly the men who were killed off, it tells us, didn't say that many of the women died, but the mothers and grandmothers, if they were still alive, would have seen all of that, and it would have been their job to tell the children and the grandchildren what Heavenly Father did. Usually it's the guys who start off in righteousness, not that women can't be, but that usually guys start off the process and are usually the worst. Now, last but not least, we're dealing with these two mountains in Israel. If you go between north and south and east and west, almost dead center in the Promised Land, there are these two mountains. They're about 2,500 feet high. They're separated by a valley that's about 1,600 feet wide. If you can find the town of Nablus, Nablus, that is the city that's right close to those. And they would have built some memorial on each of those so that one was the blessing and one was the cursing. And anybody seeing the memorial, and they did standing stones as one, and we've talked about standing stones before, as one of those memorials to it, and people seeing the standing stones would say, well, what happened here that this standing stone's memorial? And whoever was there would tell, well, let me tell you what God did about this, because that was the purpose of the standing stone. And so those are the things that are most appropriate to talk about here, I think. If there's anything else that comes up, you got a question, drop me an email, and we'll talk about it.